Hello and welcome to GB News in conjunction with the Media Super League. I'm your host Andre Hodge. This week's headlines. A nail-biting result. Canada's referendum on exiting the Commonwealth fails by one vote. Cabinet reshuffle. Positions of the likes of Chancellor of the Exchequer change hands. Cooperative collapse. Following resignations from the leader and chair among others, the future of the party is called into question. A fresh start. Dean Heathcote announces the formation of the Green Party. Unexpected result in Northern Ireland. Following what the governor called a breakdown of multiple parties, the Alliance Party have formed an interim government. Finally, partnership with the Irish Space Agency. The Prime Minister spells a new era for British space exploration. So to develop that story more, we're joined live by Atrofir from 10 News in the Irish Space Agency's primary training centre.
I'm here at the Irish Space Agency's Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, where very soon UK astronauts will be training. This comes as the Prime Minister has a partnership being developed with the Irish Space Agency, becoming the first partner in their allied programme.
So Atrofir, what kind of role are British astronauts going to assume as a result of this partnership?
The Prime Minister has announced that as part of the programme, British astronauts will work alongside their counterparts in the Irish Space Agency in space missions, working under the Chief of the Astronaut Office.
Well, I'm now joined by Dean Heathcote, who, following his resignation as cooperative chairman, has announced the formation of the new Green Party. So Dean, hello, welcome.
Hello, it is a pleasure to be here.
So, I guess we should start off by trying to work out what the Greens actually stand for.
Well, I want the Greens to sort of be the party of educating people, the party of helping people learn and develop, and it's specifically targeted at backbenchers. I know there's been a greater emphasis on that in recent terms, especially with backbencher protections coming back into force under the Reform government, but it doesn't go far enough. I think backbenchers still get ignored to this day. They have a lot of potential that needs to be unleashed, as I said when I attempted to run for Speaker a few weeks ago. And I feel like the Green Party will be the party of that, the party that encourages backbenchers to take the extra step necessary to be truly representative and to be, parliamentarians at the end of the day.
Well, moving away from a policy perspective, what is the intended purpose of the Greens in Parliament and also as a body?
As aforementioned, we want to be the party of backbenchers, but also the party of new ideas, as said at the official Green Party launch. We want to bring ideas that aren't necessarily conventional, might even cause a bit of debate, but at the end of the day, someone's got to sort of look at the community as it is right now and not go into it thinking we are the greatest nation in the community. Because we need to take a good look at ourselves. We need to say, look, there's quite a few issues around here. Let's get working on it. And I think it's going to be through new ideas, especially in the Green Party and with the new faces that we intend to bring, that will, cause the community to have a renaissance, is sort of what I describe it as.
Well, you bring up the Green Party launch, in which you stated that you did not anticipate the Greens getting a considerable amount of seats next election. To kind of expand on that a little bit, in what position do you see the Green Party next election? And as well as that, where do you see them in the foreseeable future, in terms of size, in terms of influence within Parliament?
Trust me, I would love to see the day where we have a Green supermajority. That'd be amazing. But I'm a realist, slightly pessimistic at times, I'll admit that now. And obviously, it's good to go into something without sort of thinking, oh, I'm going to do so well. You need to go in realistically. And Green's fairly new. It's sort of come out of the blue, in a way, out of the sort of collapse of co-op, etc. So I want to go into this realistically. I want to say, look, we might not win big, but we need to go in, we need to see how many seats we can get, we need to work with what we get in the election and sort of go from there, because at the end of the day, you have to start somewhere. If Green starts small, it starts small, and some of the best parties have always started small. The Conservatives, they were left on 5 seats, I believe, last term, and look at them now. They're in the main opposition, and many people will take a liking to them. So I want Green to sort of be, start small, build up, build up those ideas, build up that experience with the people we get on board, and yeah, sort of go from there, really.
Now, I know that you have commented on this, or rather not commented on this, quite a number of times now, but given that the dust has had time to settle following your unexpected departure from Reform, do you have any updates on what the Green leadership and the Green cabinet will be looking like?
Good question. I'm still talking to a few people about the sort of arrangements that are going to be made in terms of whether they'll be joining Green or not. Again, I don't really kind of rush into things and start establishing things concrete, because I feel like that's what sort of happens with major parties. They make things so concrete that they're so hard to change. I want Green to be quite flexible in terms of leadership and in terms of the people we bring on. So I'm still talking to those people. I do want to address, while I've got the opportunity, the issue of the International Partisanship Act in regards to how that relates to our chairwoman, Lynette Wright. That's still being organised now. I hope she can get pardoned. She's a very good person, and she's done a lot to set up the Green Party Discord. It'd be a shame if she doesn't get the pardon. I know Sequatic was Fiji Prime Minister as well, and he got pardoned, so I hope the same does apply. Otherwise, I'd be raising eyebrows, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that kind of same topic, you know, you and Lynette, both members of the Cooperative Party, and following, and you left yourself following Reba's departure, who was the party leader. So it's quite a considerable chunk out of the party in terms of its leadership structure and senior MPs. Where do you see how do you see the future of the party leading into next general election? Because it's obviously in quite a weak and vulnerable state at this present time.
I think I share the same opinion as sort of every other Tom, Dick or Jerry in the UK right now, and it's the sun has set on Co-op. The sunny days are gone. The party is, for all intents and purposes, deceased. And trust me, it really hurts for me to say that. I was chairman of it. I wanted it to succeed, but it just ain't going to. And it's not to the fault of Aston or Romeo. It's not their faults. It's just the party's been through too much. It's lost its core leadership. It doesn't have the same vigour it had back under Nathless. And going into the last election, just doesn't have it anymore. It is dead weight, as I've called it. So I do not think it has a future in the next election. I would be very surprised if it even kept 2 seats if it does go into the election. And honestly, I still hold my prediction, I guess, in my head that the party will probably collapse before the next election. And again, it's to no fault of Romeo Sinclair's. I think he kind of got left with he got left with a poor state. Let's just say that. I
mean, you mentioned that you were chairman. That is a very that is a considerable post within the party. So to leave it and set up the Greens, what makes you think that will turn out any different to Reform? You know, as we've seen, you do want to distance yourself from the kind of ideals that Reform held, and kind of pursue down your own unique route of policy. But are you not afraid that following what you call an inevitable collapse of Co-op, that it will essentially turn into the Co-op Party Mark II?
I think this comes down to what I see as the reasons Co-op failed. And I'd say it was Nathan's leaving. That didn't help. It was partly sort of the way people perceived Reba. And it was just the party structure was sort of rotten to the core. It was rotted. It was built on a great foundation. We went into government as Reform. Nathan served as Prime Minister. And then as soon as he left, as soon as the party went into the next election, it all just crumbled. And it had a perfectly good foundation, but the structure, it became rotten, it became unstable. I don't think Green will, hopefully, suffer from anything like that. I think Green's on a very sort of clean slate, it's on a clean foundation. I want to make it different to Co-op in that while Co-op intended to be sort of the grassroots party that represents all kinds of people, I think Green will achieve that to a greater extent because it hasn't had that sort of rotten building sort of preceding it as Co-op did. It had the Reform title. Even when Co-op got rebranded, it still got called Reform by most people. Greens, I don't think will have that. I mean, I hope they don't have that because it just isn't Co-op. It isn't the same building. It isn't the same animal in a way. And that's what I can really hope for, really, that it will turn out differently from Co-op. I hope we get new people, new faces, and I hope we do come up with the bright ideas that I said earlier.
Well, Dinar Heathcote, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you great success in the upcoming general election. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andre.
Last week, the Prime Minister made quite a significant announcement, that being a sizable cabinet reshuffle. I'm joined now by Hi There 11222 from Sky News, who'll tell us a bit more about the story. Hi there.
I'm live here at Westminster, where this weekend the government frontbenchers have looked a little different. The Prime Minister announced a cabinet reshuffle last week, which included the former Minister of State of Emergency Service Slilp being appointed Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sammy being appointed Immigration Minister, Mary Jane Ainsley and Mark J. Wentworth switched places with the former becoming Secretary of State of Justice, and latter becoming the Minister of State for Justice. This shuffle also saw Tim Hurak stepping down from politics to focus on exams.
So what does this mean for the government?
Well, it's too early to tell quite how impactful this shuffle will be, but it's quite important in the sense that there's a big shift in the Home Office, as well as a fairly senior government minister stepping back, that being Tim Hurak, who was understood to be quite influent and, in all honesty, a backbone for the Liberal Democrats. As we all see, to wait and see how that plays out.
We're going to go over to this week's copy of the House, authored by its editor-in-chief Mason J. Day. So, in the middle there, we can see that the Independent Office for Police Conduct and Compensation Bill has passed the House of Commons. Now, this is great news for the government because that was a manifesto promise and it was a focus point during the campaign. And I think that police accountability really contributed to their victory in the general election. However, as we've seen, the Lords have not been keen this term to pass legislation. So even when the government has had a direct mandate for it, in the form of it being included in their manifesto. However, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, with that one. I'm sure the government have their fingers crossed for a smooth transition through the Lords for that particular bill. Now, at the bottom, on the last paragraph, oh crap, let me start again. I messed up that thing so much. I went too fast to start. I'm going to start again. We're going to go over this week's copy of the House, authored by its editor-in-chief Mason J. Day. So in the middle there, we can see that the Independent Office for Police Conduct and Compensations Bill has passed the House of Commons. Now this is great news for the government because that was a manifesto promise and it was a focus point during the campaign and police accountability really contributed to their victory in the general election. However, as we've seen, the Lords have not been keen this time to pass legislation, even when the government has had a direct mandate for it in the form of it being included in their manifesto. However, we'll just have to wait and see with that one. But I'm sure that the government have their fingers crossed for a smooth transition through the Lords for that particular bill. Now, earlier we did an interview with Dean live. However, I think that the last paragraph in the House there gives a great perspective over what his policy in regards to coalitions really is. Now we usually see small parties being sucked into unfair coalition deals, but this really shows that the Greens will be pretty hardcore in the sense that they'll be looking for directly proportionate representations in cabinet. So I'm sure that the major parties aren't too happy about that, but they will be content, however, in the knowledge that the Greens are open up to coalition negotiations. Now for the main story we see here at the top, the Alliance Party has formed an interim government, and I'm joined by the new First Minister of Northern Ireland, Ryan Southwick, for his thoughts on the events that led up to the formation of his government. So Ryan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello.
So why do you think that other parties were deemed to have broken down? Because obviously we saw in the statement that the governor of Northern Ireland, Jeff Maltby, released. He obviously said that it was due to the fact that other parties had broken down that he'd taken the decision to invite you to form an interim government.
So it wasn't released like the reasons as people would think, and like with the party Dylan was leading, he suddenly just resigned as the leader, but no one knew about that, and it wasn't like released on news and stuff, so everyone was a bit confused about what was happening. And then later that day, we saw the Co-op Party pull out of the election due to reasons linked to their United Kingdom side of the party.
Okay, thank you for that. In this short time, you've already implemented a number of policies that you promised during your campaign, including the renewal of the St. Oliver Agreement and opening the game to British citizens. I'd like to ask how you're finding government and whether the executive is operating as smoothly as it seems from the outside.
Since we're an interim government, of course, we're not doing all of the promises since it's not us winning an election. We have released all of our policies we will be trying to aim in the coming weeks since we don't have a full term. And it is running smoothly, the executive. We are getting work done. We have seen the appointment of SLP as the permanent secretary for finance, and numerous policies are being worked on throughout the whole.
Well, the House mentions that SLP, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, has been appointed to permanent secretary of the Northern Irish Finance Department. So I'd like to ask how you're finding cooperation with the Westminster government so far.
We've not had a meeting with the Prime Minister yet. I do want to work to arrange one, but SLP is an experienced individual within the finance, the treasury side. So we went to him, we offered him the role, and he took it up. We are looking for people who have experience to go into these positions to make sure that the departments do not crumble and that they stay active, even if a government is not in place.
Well, thank you very much of First Minister. You've been very generous with your time, and that was extremely insightful. Well, that concludes the House review, and that is all that we have time for, unfortunately, here at the Channel 5 studios. Thank you for watching this Media Super League combined production. Bye bye.